Hi, and a great big, that sounded quite a flat hi then, didn't it? Sorry, hi. Hi, let's try it again. And a great big warm welcome to episode 6, season 2 of the Ask Zofie podcast. I'm really happy to have you along with me today, either if I'm in your ear listening or you're watching me on YouTube. They an extra behind the scenes, which I wasn't going to share, but there are some worker men, it's my personal technical term, doing some worker men stuff out on the street at the moment, and I'm mindful that they might get to my house soon and be knocking on the door asking me to move my car or something, so fingers crossed that doesn't happen before the end of the episode. Now, last week I nearly forgot to do my share from Love Notes. Some of you will have seen on Instagram. It doesn't actually look too beat up if you're looking on YouTube, but this is my copy of Love Notes from God, and it is really beat up actually. I haven't picked a page in advance like I did last week and a few previous weeks. I'm just gonna pick us a page before, do it now, before I get into today's podcast topic, which is I'm laughing, so I'll tell you why in a minute, but it's called Help, My Manifesting's Gone Wrong. But before I do that, let's just pick us a page, a quote from Love Notes. Okay, this week's is, I've got you. Let yourself fall fully into me. Let me love you. Pretty simple, beautiful quote there. All right, behind the scenes. So for the last 6 weeks, I think, I've done 2 podcast episodes in a row. My friend Emma laughs at me because it takes me a little while, because I do a fair bit of prep and so on, and I like it to look a certain way for YouTube. Quite particular about whatever I do, and so 2 is enough for me to batch in a day, because I have other things to be doing as well. Anyway, I've been batching 2. Some people probably batch like 10, but for me it's 2 for now, the last bunch of weeks. And so this is the second recording I'm doing today, and because I do my behind the scenes, I'm like, oh, how do I do that when I'm batching them? But anyway, this is a recent for me as I'm saying it, but not so recent as the recordings going out behind the scenes. It's kind of a behind the scenes and also a tip rolled into one. There is a woman that I rate called Dr. Ramani, Ramani, who is an expert on narcissism. And I think it was last year I first kind of really looked into narcissism, because I'd always just thought, it's a term that's so overused, and everyone's ex is a narcissist and this, that and the other. However, I happened upon a podcast that Lewis Howes was interviewing her, and I was like, oh my god, holy f balls, this information is for me. Anyway, I learned loads from her and I really rate her. But the reason I'm talking about that is that my behind the scenes is that, a little while ago, I had something to do that I didn't relish. You know how we've all got these things in our life that we don't really want to do, but we just sort of kind of got to suck it up and get on with it. And Dr. Ramani was talking about, if you have to spend time with a narcissist, it could be a relative or I don't know, a friend or someone that's in your life that really you sort of kind of can't get away from. Because it is going to be emotionally draining for you, organize something after it as a kind of treat for you, even if it's just, I'm gonna go for a walk in the woods by myself, or I'm gonna meditate or whatever. So I booked myself a massage, which is going to be next week, which was my treat for myself. And I'd really recommend that for you. I also feel like I want to say, I was going to call her Dr. Morjani then. It's not Dr. Morjani. I've still got Dr. from Dr. Ramani in my head, but Anita Morjani, who I was lucky enough to go to one of her workshops in Bristol a few years ago, she talks about how you might have things in your life that drain you, like for me, when my kids are with me for 5 days, because they need a lot of emotional support and getting back on track, it depletes me somewhat. She said it's fine, but make sure you then replenish. So it's the same kind of thing, actually. So please be mindful of this. If you have a demanding job, or someone you need to interact with who's toxic, or you're taking care of someone who's poorly, whatever it might be, it's okay, but give yourself grace and make sure that after that time of being depleted, you are then replenishing. Just doing my checking, I was recording. There's no logical reason for me to do that now because I'm pretty sure my meetings on Zoom are set to record. But anyway, so make sure that you are replenishing in exactly the same way, of course, as you would when you eat, or if your car obviously needs to be refueled. Think about those situations in that same kind of way. All right, so Help, My Manifesting's Gone Wrong is the title of today's podcast. And the reason I'm laughing, apart from the fact that it just sort of kind of sounds funny, is that this title, this podcast was inspired by a conversation that I had with my friend Charlie. Now, a shout out to Charlie, by the way, because she does listen to this. Charlie and I, you know, when you have that friend, and I mean, to be fair, I have a few because I am really silly and a giggler and very immature. But Charlie is my friend that I see her and like she gets in the car and then we just start laughing. We, a little while ago, someone called Jesus signed up for my membership, and I told Charlie about this in a voice note, and she tried to voice note me back about it, but she couldn't because she was laughing so much because it just tickled her, the thought of Jesus going, oh, I really like the look of this Sophie woman. I like the sound of her meditation, so I'm going to sign up for her membership. And then she couldn't stop laughing. And then as I listened, I couldn't stop laughing. Anyway, we giggle. When we last went out for dinner, we were both eating these really big kind of chunky olives and giggling at the same time. It was not a good look. Anyway, I, as ever, am off-piste. So she said this to me when we were having dinner: help, my manifesting's gone wrong. And I was like, that is so the title of a podcast. So thank you, Charlie. And it gives me the opportunity to speak to what's going on when your manifesting is, quote unquote, going wrong. So the first thing I want to say, I've talked about these dudes a lot. Abraham Hicks is probably my all-time favorite teacher. I love Eckhart Tolle, I love Wayne Dyer, a bunch of other people, but Abraham Hicks, I probably listened to them more than anyone over the years. And what they say is, and by the way, by the way, spit it out, Sophie. Abraham Hicks is like it's a channeled energy through someone called Esther Hicks. If you don't know, that's why I'm sort of saying they or whatever, in case you're thinking, what is she on about more than usual? But anyway, Abraham Hicks through Esther Hicks, what they say is you can never get it wrong because you never get it done. Now, if you know anything about human design, I have a 3 in my chart in human design, which means I'm meant to learn and then share as on the back of trial and error. So I am meant to make a lot of quote unquote mistakes in my life. And at the same time, I have received early training to get in trouble if I stepped out of line. And that's a real challenge. It creates real cognitive dissonance in me that I'm still working through. But here's the first thing to start with, is that perspective. You are not just this body, this flesh, blood and bones human. Like I said at the end of last week's podcast, that quote, and I can't remember who actually first said this, but I know it's Wayne Dyer's favorite quote, which is, you are a spiritual being having a human experience, not a human being having a spiritual experience. So there's far more to you, far more to life, far more to this world than meets the eye. Okay, so the physical you obviously is born, lives, and then dies. Happens to all of us. But the soul you is never born, never dies. Like energy, it can't be created or destroyed. It is eternal, and therefore, yeah, you never get it done, and you can't get things wrong because it's all just this great big trial and error, and you're going through the divine compost of life, what Abraham Hicks called contrast, unwanted, this duality of the world of contrast that we live in, so that you can just create this bouncing off point for more joy. So the first thing is to start to understand you can't get it wrong. There is no such thing as getting it wrong. This is just a made up construct of the mind. And so instead of perceiving anything ever in this manner, start to say, this is in divine order. This is how it's meant to be. I think I shared on this at the time, but about a year ago, I think it was. Sorry, Susie's just coming in. She didn't join on yesterday's podcast. She's a bit yesterday's last week's, I mean, which I just recorded earlier, but I'm just going to get her to poke her head up and say hi. So yeah, I was talking about I was going to share the story of my bathroom ceiling. Basically, I asked my lovely friend, a decorator who's called Sophie, a bit confusing, but anyway, if she could come and decorate. And she was like, yeah, I could do it tomorrow or something. And so I didn't have much time to prep in the usual way that I would and decide on colours. So I chose this colour for bathroom ceiling. Anyway, it went on and I really, really didn't like it. And I can't tell you how bad I felt about this, how much shame, because I won't go into all the details, but it triggered a lot of stuff in me that, you mustn't ever make mistakes, which is totally contrary to my human design. As I said earlier, I'm meant to throw myself in and learn through trial and error, but my programming taught me other than this. So I really felt terrible about this, and it was like, no, flip this on its head. What attributes did I bring to the table that made me make this decision about doing the bathroom, making the bathroom ceiling this color, and so on and so forth. So I want you, the thing that I'll say is, and it's also a challenge for me when I quote unquote make a mistake, because like particularly at the topic I'm talking about now, which is in manifesting, because I know this stuff inside and out. Like when I was a kid, you'd get a stick of rock from when you went to the beach. I don't know if I think they're still around in this country, and you cut through the stick of rock and it says like Blackpool or whatever all the way through. If you chop me in two, there'd be manifesting and knowledge of manifestation running through my freaking veins. I know it inside and out. And so when something in my life seems to go wrong, it's so easy for me to judge myself, like I should know better than this. But it's like, well, no, because that implies that you can get it wrong, which you can't, and that you ought to be judged, which you never are, apart from by the mind, which is full of crap, basically. Can't think of another way or a better way to say it. So it's reframing it. And I talked about this somewhere before, I can't remember now actually, but when I went through the situation after my ex-husband and I split, and I was deeply in love with this person that I thought was my soulmate, yada yada yada, and it was a really challenging time, I was like, well, how could I have manifested it all wrong? I didn't manifest it wrong. I was being called through that by my soul, which I'll talk about in a moment, but I just want you to banish from your mind the entire idea of there being any such thing as a mistake or getting it wrong. In NLP, they say there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. This is just a flipping the script in terms of one's perspective, which is always uber powerful when you're taking a negative to a positive. So what I want to say, speaking specifically in terms of manifesting, is if your manifesting seems to be quote unquote going wrong, it's only ever because you're out of alignment. Okay, so you're trying to manifest more money. However, you're really stressed about money. You're worried about money. Every time you hear someone mention money or bills, you panic and so on and so forth. So you're asking for what you want, which we're doing pretty much all day, every day, but you're not letting it in. Okay, so number one is you're out of alignment generally, or you're out of alignment relative to that subject. Okay, so you could be feeling pretty good across the board, but worried when it comes to money. So you're still going to probably block it. The second is it's not divine timing yet. Before I manifested Daniel into my life, I remember having a conversation with my friend and saying, what gives? Like, I'm doing all the right things. I really feel it. I really know this. I'm like saying no to dates that aren't what I want. I'm not settling. I'm working on myself. I'm feeling good. I'm really at peace. And I wasn't doing anything wrong. We've already talked about the fact that that's not an appropriate concept anyway. But it just wasn't divine timing. And of course, if I think about the specifics of Daniel, I couldn't have met him then because he was still married, right? So sometimes there's this sort of like the cooperative components, as Abraham Hicks would say, are being brought together, put into place, which you don't have eyes on, and it's not your business to think about. And the third reason, so it's either you're out of alignment, that's your business, or it's not divine timing, not your business, or your soul is guiding you to something more. Okay, so it could be, say for example, you really want the man of your dreams to be manifested into your life, and you keep going out with bum heads, it's one of my technical terms, and you're like, what's going on? Like, I'm doing the inner work, I'm feeling good, so on and so forth. But it could be that, say for example, you're just too people pleasery, and all these guys that you keep meeting are getting you to get over that, because you can't draw in the guy that you want while you still have this going on. Like the relationship before the relationship I'm in now, that I think was what some people call a wound mate versus the soulmate. And that person on a soul level helped me to overcome some triggers that wouldn't really have served, well, they definitely wouldn't have served me well in my current relationship with Daniel. So that was a really challenging time and painful, but my soul was guiding me through that to bring me to what I now have. So remember, from your soul, from your higher self, from God's perspective, it's like that great chess player in the sky. It can see in a broader way what you can't see, all right? But the main thing to know is the only piece of the puzzle for you to be mindful of and focus on is your alignment. Are you feeling good? Are you working consistently on embodying the version of you who has the thing that you desire? Are you being mindful and self-aware of those beliefs that you've got that are standing in your way? Any tension, anything you're doing to F it up, like I talked about, obviously, in the masterclass, if you came along to that masterclass. And so the other bits, divine timing, nothing to do with you. You don't need to think about that or contend with that. And also, if it seems to be quote unquote going wrong, your soul might be guiding you to something lovingly, not in a mean way, not testing you, for your highest good. Now, there are two questions I want you to not ask as and when things quote unquote go wrong. And the first is, don't ask, like, what's the universe doing to me? Okay, I hear this a lot. Oh, universe, why are you doing this to me? What are you doing to me? The universe isn't some mean external kind of creature that's trying to get you or teach you anything. You are the entire universe experiencing and expressing itself through this human body of yours. And the universe loves you and has your back and wants you to have what you desire, and way more than you can even begin to imagine. So it's not doing anything to you, it's not testing you, it's not putting you through trials. It is supporting you and guiding you and assisting you and lovingly helping you to achieve and acquire what you desire. And also, don't ask, what did I do wrong? Or what went wrong? These are traps. Again, in the masterclass, How to Not F It Up, I talked about this. Trying to figure stuff out is a surefire way to not allow yourself to figure stuff out. You figure stuff out, you have those light bulb moments when you get aligned, when you feel good, and when mental clarity comes back to you, not through just trawling through things in your mind. Okay, so in terms of manifesting, I didn't say this tonight, and I could have done actually, manifesting seeming to quote unquote go wrong. This could be that it's not what you want hasn't turned up yet. It could be that you thought the thing that turned up was what you want, and then it turned out not to it turned out not to be. Like, for example, you want a new job, you got this job and you thought it was your dream job, but it actually turns out to really not be. This can be really disheartening. Or like, you really want a baby, you get pregnant and you have a miscarriage, or you really want a loving partner and you meet someone, you're like, wow, they're amazing, and they turn out to really not be amazing. Yeah, this can be really disheartening, and then we can start thinking, my manifesting went wrong. No, it's just not complete yet. You can never get it wrong because you never get it done. Okay, you're on this journey and you'll always be asking for more. This is part and parcel of what makes you human and makes you want to be in your human body and alive and so on and so forth. So the main thing is, I want you to get out of your head this notion, this idea that you can make mistakes, that you can get things wrong. I want you to reframe, see that everything is in divine order. Your soul will learn from and grow from anything and everything in your life. And any unwanted, you create the polar opposite of that in vibrational form as soon as you go through it. So there's always benefit. It's always there to serve you. Okay, I really hope that helps. And thanks again to Charlie for the inspo for this episode. I have shared this, I can't remember if I shared on the podcast or just on Instagram, but I'm not going to do another Manifesting Miracles before the end of the year, but I will do one at the start of 2023. I'm going to do a catch up soon for previous students. There will be at least one, probably only one final masterclass of 2022, which I think after my poll on Instagram is going to be how to not F it up part 2. And then I'll do recession proof your mindset early next year. Make sure if you want access to those for free or in my membership, otherwise you can join and just pay to join, but you'll get free spot when you're in my membership. I think that's everything. I will be back next week. Hooray, the worker men didn't knock on the door. That's really awesome. Thanks for listening or watching, and I'll be back for the next episode. Lots of love.